Hey there, it's Mia Thompson. I'm 28, and I thought my wedding day would be the happiest moment of my life. Picture this. I'm standing in a barn outside Austin, my white dress shimmering under string lights, waiting for my parents to walk through the door. I'd spent months planning, dreaming of them watching me say, "I do." But 30 minutes before the ceremony, my phone buzzes. It's a text from Mom. "Sorry, sweetie. The Wilsons' casino night was planned months ago. We can't miss it." I walked down that aisle alone, forcing a smile through tears, my heart shattering with every step. And if you think that's the worst part, wait for this. Just days later, they called me. Not to apologize, but to ask for money. That moment broke something in me, but it also set me free. Stick with me, because this story changed everything. Before we go on, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. If your family ever let you down on your biggest day, hit that subscribe button and let's walk this road together. Sometimes, the deepest betrayals lead to the most beautiful new beginnings. So, let me take you back to where it all started. I grew up in a small town just outside Dallas, in a creaky wooden house with a sagging porch and roof tiles peeling like old paint. My dad, Ron, was a car mechanic, always coming home late with grease-stained hands, more likely to crack open a beer than ask about my day. Mom, Cheryl, worked part-time at the local supermarket, but she'd skip shifts if there was a bingo night or a slot machine calling her name. Our house wasn't a home. It was a place where dreams went to fade. I was different, though. Even as a kid, I'd spend hours sketching furniture designs in a tattered notebook, dreaming of turning empty rooms into something beautiful. But my parents? They didn't care. I remember being 10, twirling in my first ballet recital, scanning the audience for them, only to find out later Dad was at a dive bar, and Mom didn't want to waste gas on a kid's show. In high school, I won a design scholarship, my ticket to a better life, but they just shrugged. "Art doesn't pay bills," Dad grunted, tossing my award letter aside. My high school graduation? They skipped it for Mom's horse racing tickets, leaving me to clap for myself in an empty row. Still, I kept pushing. I taught myself to draw, worked double shifts at a coffee shop, and clawed my way into a design school in Austin on a partial scholarship. Every late night, every rejection, I told myself I'd break free from that creaky house and build a life that felt like mine. But deep down, there was always this ache, this hope that one day my parents might see me, really see me, and be proud. Fast forward to 5 years ago when I met Ethan, a soft-spoken software engineer with a laugh that made my heart feel safe. After years of building my career as a freelance interior designer in Austin, I was ready to start a new chapter. When he proposed under a canopy of oak trees, I said yes before he finished the question. Our wedding was going to be my moment, not just to marry the love of my life, but to show my parents who I'd become. I poured my heart into planning it. Picture a rustic barn just outside Austin, draped in lavender garlands, glowing with mason jar lanterns. I designed every detail myself, the wildflower centerpieces, the hand-painted signs, even the tablecloths. I sent my parents formal invitations, embossed with gold foil, and booked their flights in a cozy hotel nearby, dipping into my savings to make it special. Mom sounded thrilled on the phone. "We'll be there, sweetheart. You're our only bride." Dad even promised to dust off his old suit, a first in my memory. I let myself believe they meant it. Every Sunday I'd call with updates, 6 weeks to go, then 4, then 2. I told them about the vows I'd written, the string quartet, the peach cobbler we'd serve for dessert. I even spent nights gluing together a gift for them, a scrapbook of family photos, from my childhood sketches to my first design projects, hoping it'd bridge the gap between us. But as the day got closer, Mom's replies grew shorter. She'd mumble about work or change the subject. Once, she mentioned the Wilsons' annual casino night, some big poker bash in town. "It's the same weekend," she said casually. I brushed it off. They wouldn't miss my wedding for a card game, right? The morning of the wedding, I stood in front of a mirror, my lace dress hugging my frame, veil catching the sunlight. My hands shook as I pinned wildflowers in my hair, picturing Mom's smile, Dad's awkward hug. I kept checking my phone, expecting a "we're on our way" text. But 30 minutes before the ceremony, it buzzed. Mom's name lit up the screen. My stomach dropped as I read, "Sweetie, we're so sorry. The Wilsons' casino night was planned forever ago. I can't drive alone, and your dad's got his heart set on the poker prize. We'll celebrate with you later, okay?" I stared at the words, my breath catching. I called her back, voice trembling, begging them to come. "It's my wedding. Mom, please, it starts in half an hour." Straight to voicemail. I tried Dad. Voicemail again. The room spun. My maid of honor, Sophia, held my hand, but I could barely hear her. The music started outside, guests murmuring in their seats. I had no choice. I wiped my tears, straightened my veil, and walked down that aisle alone. Ethan's eyes locked on mine, full of love, but all I could feel was the empty space where my parents should have been. My smile was a mask, hiding a heart breaking in real time. The reception was a blur. Laughter, clinking glasses, Ethan spinning me on the dance floor under a ceiling of twinkling lights. But inside, I was crumbling. Sophia, my best friend, kept me grounded, whispering, "You're stronger than this." Ethan's parents hugged me tight, their warmth a reminder of what I'd never had. Still, every smile I gave felt borrowed, like I was acting in someone else's story. When the night ended, I drove back to our apartment, the unworn scrapbook I'd made for my parents sitting heavy in the back seat. I hung my wedding dress in the closet, its lace edges catching the moonlight, and let myself cry. I didn't want to look at my phone, but I did. That's when I saw it, a notification from Instagram. My mom had posted a video. My hands shook as I tapped it open. There she was, laughing, her face flushed under neon casino lights, standing by a poker table with a drink in hand. Dad was, next to her, cheering as chips piled up. The caption hit me like a punch. "Casino night beats any old ceremony." The timestamp? Right when I was walking down the aisle, vowing my forever to Ethan. I sank to the floor, the scrapbook slipping from my lap, pages splaying open. That video wasn't just a post, it was a public slap, a declaration that their card game mattered more than their daughter's wedding. Something broke in me then. Some fragile thread of hope I'd clung to for years. I spent the next 2 days in a fog, replaying that video, hearing Mom's laugh on loop. Ethan held me. Sophia brought takeout. But the hurt was a weight I carried, alone. Then, on the 3rd day, my phone rang. Dad's name lit up the screen. My heart leapt. Maybe this was the apology, the moment they'd finally see me. I answered, voice soft. "Hey, Dad." He started casual, asking about the wedding, the weather, but then his tone shifted, like he was reading a script. "Listen, kiddo, we've got a problem. The bathroom's leaking bad. Plumber says it'll cost $4,000 to fix. You and Ethan got all that wedding gift cash, right? Can you spot your old man? Family helps family, you know." I froze, the phone heavy in my hand. "No, sorry we missed your day. No, we're proud of you." Just a hand reaching through the line, expecting me to fix their mess. My voice cracked as I said, "I don't have that kind of money, Dad. And honestly, I need time to process what happened." He huffed, muttered something about gratitude, and hung up. I sat there stunned, realizing they didn't just skip my wedding. They saw me as a bank account, not a daughter. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept asking myself why I still hoped they'd change. I reached out to a therapist, Dr. Harper, who listened as I poured out years of hurt. Her words were gentle but clear. "What you're describing is emotional manipulation. It's okay to feel betrayed, and it's okay to protect yourself. For the first time, I let myself wonder, what if I didn't have to keep chasing their love? What if I could choose who my family really was? That phone call from Dad was the last straw. It wasn't just about the money, it was the realization that I'd spent my whole life begging for scraps of their love, only to get slapped with their selfishness. I couldn't stay in that cycle anymore. So I made a choice, one that scared me as much as it freed me. Ethan and I packed up our little Austin apartment, said goodbye to the oak trees and dusty trails, and moved to Portland, Oregon, for a new job I'd landed at a boutique design firm. Before we left, I sent my parents a text. I need space to heal after the wedding. I'll reach out when I'm ready. My hands trembled as I hit send, knowing what would come next. Their response was a storm of messages. Mom calling me selfish, Dad saying I'd abandoned the family after all they'd done. Each word stung, but I didn't reply. I turned off my phone and looked out the car window as Texas faded into the rear view, the horizon stretching wide with possibility. Portland welcomed us with misty air and the soft rush of the Willamette River. Our new apartment was tiny, just a one-bedroom with creaky floors and a window framing the water, but it felt like a blank canvas, a place to paint my own story. Threw myself into my work, designing cozy hotel lobbies and airy cafes, each project a step toward the life I'd always wanted. My coworkers became my lifeline. Sophia, a graphic designer with a wicked sense of humor, dragged me to food truck festivals and left sticky notes on my desk with silly doodles. Leo, an architect with a quiet kindness, taught me how to brew the perfect pour-over coffee. They weren't just friends. They were the family I'd been searching for, the ones who showed up without being asked. But my parents didn't stop. A month in, Mom texted, "Lost a bet at the slots. Need $500 to cover it. You owe us for raising you." I stared at the words, my stomach twisting. I wanted to scream, to send back a novel about every hurt they'd caused. Instead, I put the phone down and walked to a yoga class I'd started taking, letting the stretches and deep breaths pull me back to myself. Dr. Harper, my therapist, helped me see it clearly. You can't change them, but you can choose how much space they take in your life. So I did. I stopped answering their texts, ignored their voicemails, and focused on building something new. Little by little, I found my footing. I got promoted to lead designer, my first big win in Portland. I opened a savings account, something I'd never dared to do, watching the numbers grow with each paycheck. I hung string lights in my apartment, filled it with thrifted furniture I painted myself, and started a small herb garden on the windowsill, basil and mint sprouting like tiny promises. For the first time, I felt like I was living for me, not for their approval. And you know what? That felt like freedom. 6 months into my Portland life, I was finally finding my rhythm. Morning coffee by the river, late nights sketching designs, weekends hiking with Sophia and Leo. I wasn't healed, not completely, but I was learning to breathe without the weight of my parents' expectations. Then, out of nowhere, my phone lit up with Mom's name. My heart skipped, half dreading, half hoping. "We want to visit you in Portland," she said, her voice unusually soft. "We miss you, and we've never seen your new life." Dad chimed in, promising to make things right. Against my better judgment, I said yes, but I set rules. They'd pay for their own flights, stay in a hotel, and we'd keep it short. I wasn't ready to let them back in, not fully. They arrived on a rainy Friday, stepping into my world like strangers. The hotel lobby smelled of cedar and coffee, but all they did was complain about the flight delays, the overpriced room, the maze of Portland's one-way streets. I suggested a late lunch at a riverside bistro, hoping food might soften the edges. But over plates of salmon and kale salad, they barely asked about my job, my designs, or Ethan. Instead, they griped about the menu prices and quizzed me on my Rent, their eyes scanning my life like they were pricing it. I kept my answers short, my guard up, waiting for the real reason they'd come. That reason hit at dinner the next night, in a dimly lit restaurant with windows framing the Willamette's silver ripples. Mom leaned in, her smile too bright, and said, "We've got exciting news." Dad took over, his voice low, like he was pitching a deal. "You remember Jerry from the auto shop? His cousin's opening a new casino outside Dallas. They need investors. $6,000 to start, but the payout could be huge. With your design smarts, you could even help with the decor, make some real money." My fork froze midair. This wasn't a visit. This was a transaction. They hadn't come to see me. They'd come to cash in. I set my fork down, my pulse racing. "So, you skipped my wedding for a poker game, and now you're here asking for $6,000? My voice was steady, but inside I was shaking. Mom's face flushed. "That's not fair," she snapped, glancing at nearby tables. "We came to reconnect. This is just an opportunity we thought you'd like." Dad's jaw tightened. "After everything we've done, raising you, you owe us a little help." I looked at them, really looked, and saw it clear as day. They'd never see me as their daughter, only as a means to an end. I took a breath, the kind that feels like armor. "I'm not your bank," I said, each word deliberate. I deserved parents who showed up for my wedding, who cared about my life. I don't owe you anything. Dad shoved his chair back, muttering about disrespect. Mom hissed, "You're breaking our hearts." But I was done. I signaled the waiter, paid the bill with my own card, and walked out into the Portland drizzle, my steps lighter than I expected. They texted later, demanding a ride to the airport. I replied, "There's a light rail 3 blocks from your hotel, $3 a ticket. Safe travels." Then I silenced their numbers. That rainy night in Portland, walking away from my parents, was the first time I felt truly free. They left the next day, their final text to Kurt, "We're home. Thanks for nothing." I didn't reply. Instead, I stood on my apartment's tiny balcony, watching the river glint under a gray sky, and let the silence settle. For so long I'd carried their weight, their neglect, their demands, their version of love that always came with a price tag. But now, I was choosing me. A year after the wedding, I took a solo hike in the Columbia River Gorge. The trail wound through mossy cliffs, past waterfalls that roared like they were singing my strength back to me. Sitting on a rock, mist kissing my face, I thought about the girl who'd walked down that aisle alone, her heart breaking under a veil. She was still part of me, but I wasn't her anymore. I'd built something new in Portland, a life that felt like home. My design firm promoted me to creative director, a dream I'd barely dared to whisper. I bought a small condo, its balcony bursting with lavender pots and fairy lights, each bloom a quiet victory. Sophia and Leo, my chosen family, filled my days with laughter, potlucks, and rainy hikes that made my soul feel full. I started volunteering too, teaching design workshops for foster teens in Portland. Watching them sketch their first ideas, eyes bright with possibility, I saw myself in their hunger to be seen. I'd tell them, "Your family doesn't define your worth. You get to build your own, with people who lift you up, not pull you down." It wasn't just advice, it was my truth, hard-won and healing. My parents and I talk now, but it's different. Once a month, I call for 20 minutes, keeping it light. Weather, neighbors, nothing deep. If they hint at money, I end the call. It's not the family I dreamed of, but it's a boundary that keeps me whole. Dr. Harper helped me understand something profound. The hardest grief isn't losing what you had, but accepting what you never will. My parents gave me life, but the love, the pride, the showing up, that came from Ethan, from Sophia, from the kids I teach, and most of all, from myself. Here's what I've learned, and I hope it stays with you. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is walking away from people who keep hurting you, even if they're family. Happiness isn't about winning their approval. It's about giving yourself permission to live a life that feels true. You deserve that. We all do. If my story hit you, leave a comment and tell me, have you ever had to set a boundary with family to protect your heart? Your stories mean the world to me. If this journey resonated, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear they're not alone. Thank you for walking this path with me today. Here's to building our own families, our own homes, our own light.